Moving on to another club that's seemingly obviously going to be going through it soon. Like Liverpool, top of the league. We know they're doing really, really well. But Alonso now outright, I'll put it up on the screen here. You can see is the outright favourite to become the new manager. He's 2-1 on with the bookmakers. Almiron is now moved from sixth choice to second in place. De Zerbi there, Pep Linders, Postecoglou still pretty high on that list at 14-1. But they're also scrambling at the minute, Liverpool. They're trying to get the likes of Michael Edwards back to come in and help them through this transitional period. Maybe some signs there that there are a few more cracks in this than maybe first appeared, Gal.
I think it's funny that you go back to Michael Edwards after he quit and you say, here's a pay rise, here's a better role, you can have it. You had him in your house. You had him already on the books. You let him quit. You let him resign or leave on good notice. And now you're asking him for a raise? Terry, any employer you've ever had that you wanted to leave, once you hand in your resignation, what do they say to you if they really need you? Oh, we'll give you a pay rise. We'll keep you. I feel like that's what Liverpool's trying to do now after he's been gone for a couple of years. I just think that's extremely silly. And I think because he's turned it down, there might have been something that we don't know about on an unharmonious end to him leaving Liverpool. Now, outside of the Michael Edwards situation, I think Alonso would be a great choice. I think Alonso would be a great story. Former player coming back, who's also doing good in Germany right now. He's one of the most young sought after managers. Real Madrid want him. Of course, Liverpool want him, and anybody else who's looking for a manager will probably be interested in Xabi Alonso. So quality manager coming in, and so far what he's doing at Leverkusen, he's shown quickly that he can improve a side. But Liverpool have a big job on their hands. They need to tie down players to a new contract with the likes of Mo Salah could potentially leave, Van Dijk could potentially leave, Trent could potentially leave. Their whole backroom staff is leaving, not only Klopp. So they're going to have a new coaching staff from top to bottom, which is going to mean next year is going to be a huge transitional season for them. I don't think we're going to be seeing the same Liverpool that we've seen over the last couple of years that have been at the top of the table, challenging for leagues, Champions Leagues, and are one of the most competitive sides in the league. Because of all the turnover, it's not unrealistic to say that it's going to be a transitional year and their expectations are going to be a lot lower. And if they are up there competing at the top of the table, I'll be more surprised than if there wasn't a transitional year where they struggle. That's just me.
I think Alonso is obviously one of the problems that all clubs have at the moment. Yeah, and obviously the Arsenal fans who want rid of Arteta, and when Pep eventually leaves City, whenever that's going to be, is, I mean, this is like a wider reflection on football itself. It's just who is there out there, man? Like, honestly, we're actually sitting here, yeah, and saying Liverpool Football Club, one of the best teams over the last decade since they've had Klopp, and we're talking about a manager who's managed 60 odd games in first team football. Right, and this season, last season, I'm looking at his record from last season. Last season, it wasn't great. I know he took over after match day 9, so he didn't have the full season, but he had most of it. Didn't do that good. Drew 10, lost 10, won 17. So he's drawn and lost more than he won last year. This year, obviously, everyone will look at it and go, he's doing fantastic. But we are only halfway through the season. You know what I mean? So he's had a I would say, pretty poor to mediocre year last year in his first year in managerial football, like a proper first team. This year he's doing good, but we're only 6 months into the job. I mean, it just shows you where we are. Football, but like, who else is there out there? Like, could Liverpool try and get a Simeone? Could they try and get someone like that? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know I don't know what Liverpool do. I think they've got a really difficult position, and I really don't think, by the way, Van Dijk's comments helped. I've had a bit of a dispute with some people on this. Some people think that he's trying to force the board to make and the owners to make sure that they invest in the summer. Right, that's all well and good, right? You could have done that behind closed doors. You could have also waited till the end of the season. I really think now was probably the worst time. Now, I know Liverpool fans will obviously try and defend it because they want to try and be positive, and rightly, I understand why, but I really don't think they were helpful comments. I really don't.
You think Liverpool are up there next year, guys? Be honest.
No,
I think it's too early right now to say. Depends on who they bring in and everything else. But on the Van Dijk thing, I think you're right. If we're going to sit here and say Ten Hag shouldn't be talking about certain things in public at this moment in time, where, by the way, there are still a lot of Liverpool fans that don't like how Liverpool have announced this mid-season in the current situation. For him to say that, it sends a really worrying message out there of, well, if we don't bring in the right replacement, so if we bring in a manager we all think is substandard and we don't commit to spend X amount of money, some of the stars that are currently there could leave. If you suddenly have a summer where Mo Salah and Van Dijk leave with the manager, and you're not, it means you've literally got to bring in, think of the replacements you need to replace those two individuals. You're looking at a really uphill battle. So I think you're right. I think Van Dijk should have kept that absolutely to himself. Should have said, I'm a Liverpool player. I've got a contract. I love it here. And leave it at that. Some kind of vague PR-based answer. Not what he came out with. I think it's the wrong way around. I also think Liverpool fans have got to calm down this season. I'm seeing too many of them tweet things and say things on podcasts. These players must deliver now for Klopp. Your players are used to you having their backs. They're not used to you talking about them and treating them like this. You're going to put too much pressure on them. But on next year, look, Alonso looks like a good option right now, but you're right, LB. What if they assign him now as their new manager and then he collapses and ends the season poorly and finishes 5th, as an example? Then you're bringing in someone that's just absolutely flopped with no real pedigree and background behind him. When you start looking at the list, though, I know you've got Simeone. I know who's out there, but he doesn't seem to be somebody that's looking to come to the Premier League. Like, who on that list genuinely do you look at and think that individual is going to come in and keep Liverpool up near the top? Or you can say it with your hand on your heart with a fair amount of certainty.
Nobody on that list, Terry, because I look at Liverpool job and I say to themselves, there's going to be a drop-off. There's going to be a massive drop-off next season. You bring in any of those names, you're not going to go and replace everything. You're not going to be able to go and replace a Van Dijk if he leaves. You're not going to be able to replicate what Liverpool have been able to do over the last couple of years. No matter who they bring in as the manager, they're going to have a massive transitional season. If they go and get Zidane, even, do you guys trust this Liverpool team, this Liverpool ownership, who didn't back Klopp fully at times when you needed to go and get that extra little bit, the extra signing to go and beat City, to go and get that extra couple, that extra defender, that extra midfielder that you needed at the time? You couldn't get it, and now you expect a new manager to come in and everything to just be the same? It's not going to be. In all due respect, I think Liverpool are going to drop down, and it's going to be Arsenal who take their space. Maybe you guys can joke about that, but I think we're the most prepared to take their spot. And Liverpool are going to have to not only cycle through this squad, I think they're going to have to rebuild completely eventually. I don't think this team.
I think you're wrong. Do you know why? Do you know why I think you're wrong, Igal? I think there will be a slight drop off because Jurgen Klopp's, in my opinion, the second best manager in the world, and they're not bringing in anybody as good as him. I don't think it helps with what Van Dijk has said, but we sit here. You sit here as an Arsenal fan talking about how your club has rebuilt its culture, rebuilt its structure. Would you agree? Which means if a club has truly done that properly, it means that a manager leaving shouldn't upset you drastically. Unless you're claiming that there is no structure at Liverpool and it is all predicated on the quality of Jurgen Klopp, and that over the last 9 years they haven't built a foundation, an ideology. They don't have a plethora of talents they know that are going to come in and replace the individuals that they've currently got. If you think that all the great work of the last 9 years is going to disappear with Jurgen Klopp, then fair enough, that's your opinion. But for me, I'm not saying they're going to be as good straight away, but I think this idea there's going to be this big drop-off and Liverpool go back to being a poorly run club with bad managers, bad signings, I don't necessarily think is I think that's too far, because we've praised them for the last 5, 6, 7 years for building this brilliant structure that should surpass and live on beyond. The same as Man City. Man City will not be as good without Pep because he is the best in the world currently. But the idea that City will suddenly drop off without Pep and become an average team, equally with Arsenal, I think you guys have rebuilt a lot of stuff internally, great structure. If Arteta goes and a new manager comes in, I don't see you guys going backwards. If anything, I think you'd go further forward depending on who the manager was. So I get where you're coming from, but when you say a big drop-off, how far is a big drop-off in your opinion?
There's a lot of ifs, but the reality is Van Dijk is being rumored away. Salah's being rumored away. Those are the two of their biggest key players and two Liverpool legends at this point. Two of the best players to ever play in that position for them. If they were to lose them, it's going to be extremely difficult to replace them, let alone as they already have to replace Jurgen Klopp. You said what Jurgen Klopp built over the last couple of years, 9 years. A large part of that was down to Michael Edwards and his team. If I'm not mistaken, Michael Edwards left. His second in command has also resigned, if I'm not mistaken. And now Klopp is leaving and all his backroom staff is leaving. So their structure that built this winning team, Terry, is all out the door. So it's not hard to fathom that FSG maybe can get a replacement in to fix that in the future. but it took them how long to just get to this level?
What's broken? So it's been built by those individuals. Michael Edwards left a while ago. They nearly won a quad since he's left. So they didn't drop off when he went. I get they'll be that maybe they won't get a manager as good. I think that's a fair comment. But the structure's built. The infrastructure's in place. There are other people that have stepped into the shoes of Michael Edwards since him, and Liverpool haven't fallen off. Like, I just don't see, when you say drastically fallen off, I don't know, like league position wise, what you think they're going to start coming fifth, sixth, seventh?
I think they're going to go from being a team that's competing for major trophies and the league to just being to a top 4 team. That's what I think. Because
that's a fair comment. I think that's a fair
I don't think you can say you cannot measure how much importance Klopp's tactics and Klopp's encouragement gives to these players on a week-to-week basis and gets them set up correctly. When you have a special manager, you lose them, there's always a drop-off. To think that Liverpool are just going to lose Jurgen Klopp, lose all these great backroom staff people, and there's not going to be a drop-off from a team that's competing for the league every year to top 4, I think is ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous to expect Liverpool next season to be challenging for the league.
Mm-hmm. I'm with him. I don't think Van Dijk will leave in the summer, personally. I think he'll stay, but I think Salah, if the Saudis come in for him, I think that could be a very tempting offer for Liverpool, especially because he's got 1 year left on his deal. He's going to get a lot of money still. I think you're going to get over 100 million for him, so that could be a tempting offer. But I agree. I mean, you look at Jurgen Klopp, I think he's competed for the league. If you include this year, he's competed for the league, 4 times out of his 8 years at the football club? So 50%. You've got to accept that if Salah leaves, one of the best right wingers this country's ever seen, the goals and assists, they're going to lose that. You just said you think he's the second best manager in the world right now. You've got to imagine that they're going to get worse. So they're going to compete for the league less than 50% of the times.
So I can again, but this is what I wanted to. Gal's thoughts and opinion are not a problem. I was trying to understand the logic and how big a fall off is. I can understand them dropping back and being a team that competes for the top 4. But as you've said, out of four of the 8 seasons so far, that's what they've done. So that's, in terms of where Liverpool have been over the last 9 years, year 1, if they're only competing for the top 4, that isn't enough time period to go, see, I told you they've dropped off and I'll never be back near the top. The new guy that comes in, Pep then suddenly leaves. That changes everything. Because I don't think Pep's going to be here in 2 or 3 years' time. So suddenly, in a year's time, say Pep goes, then that changes the landscape altogether again, in my opinion, because that's another big leveler for everybody as an example. I just don't
have to rebuild the squad, Terry, because Van Dijk is going to probably be leaving soon.
Okay.
Salah is going to probably be leaving soon.
Okay.
Alisson is how old? I don't know how much longer he's going to have. I think this window for Liverpool to win closes this year. For them,
Alisson back is 31. He's got years left.
Okay,
granted, they've got to replace those two, but look at their midfield this year. One summer, that midfield is starting to look dangerous. It's got to add to it. Do you not think Liverpool are going to be able to replace Mo Salah and Van Dijk? Do you think that's impossible for them to do?
I don't think it's easy to replace Premier League legends. Let's realize how difficult it is to replace Premier League legends. You don't just go from you don't go from your best ever center back and just bring in your next best ever center back in your club's history. These things don't happen. They don't grow. These players come once in a generation.
Yeah, but I chill on Van Dijk, bro. I think you're speaking on Van Dijk too much. Yeah, I don't think Van Dijk.
I'm talking about Van Dijk, Salah together.
But when you say that, I get what you're saying about legend. But when you look at the average age of Liverpool squad, okay, it's only a year older than Arsenal's.
Okay. But then you look at their 2 best performing players, 3 best performing players, Alisson, Trent. You put Trent in there. So they're 4 best performing players. You got Salah, you got Trent, you got Van Dijk, and you got Alisson. Besides Trent and Alisson will probably stay. The other 2, I think they're going to probably be gone by the time this team is back competitive again. Because one, Salah looks like he's had numerous times where he's been linked to Saudi. I think he's going to end up in Saudi eventually. And with Van Dijk, we're already hearing rumors of him potentially going to Barcelona or going somewhere else. So
he's not going to go Barcelona, bro.
Hey,
I could see Van Dijk staying at Liverpool till he's 36, 37.
Dutch players have a connection to Barcelona that we don't know about. So we've seen it.
And they've also got a brain, man. And anyone worth after salt would not go to Barcelona.
Bernardo Silva wanted to leave to Barcelona. And you're one of the best.
And he didn't go.
I know he didn't, but if he was offered today, he probably might go.
Well, he's not. He's not. It's a hypothetical
I'm
situation.
I'm
I
just
don't. I
saying.
don't believe he's going to go to
My
Barcelona.
my whole theory around Liverpool not being as competitive is I think the window of opportunity for Klopp and this team to capitalize is closing. And with Salah and Van Dijk's era at Liverpool coming close to an end, I think it's going to be difficult to replace those kind of players.
I think it's
and
fair.
find players
Your
of
comments
that
are
level.
fair when you're speaking about Salah. I think your comments are fair because I think I would be surprised if he's still there next season. And you're right. He's a Premier League legend. He's got all these goals, assists. He's
Van Dijk
carried
too.
Liverpool. Yeah. But the point I'm making is I don't think you're right on Van Dijk. I think Van Dijk stays at Liverpool a lot longer than you think. I think he could stay there till he's 36.
I think he's the first one out the door.
Nah. Why? Why are you so confident on that, man?
Because the reports coming out today, the way you don't come out of the blue saying that. That's a come get me plea from a certain big clubs. That's telling Bayern, come get me. I've done my job at Liverpool. These players are looking at the situation and they might be saying, what's next in my career? I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
I disagree. I think he's coming out. I think when he come out with them comments, I think the comments were directed towards the board. I think he was wrong to do that. But do I think that he actually wants?
You can do that behind closed doors. You don't have to do that out loud.
No, and I agree. I just said that before.
I think there's